Hey guys and gals, in my first video I showed you kind of sort of what the project was to how to do the spring drop and everything. In this video I'm actually going to show you how to make the dynamic simulation. Okay, so it's important that you start in an assembly and you add in your, I called it the shaft, but the cylinder, the mass that you're doing, and I added this piece at the top to make it heavier. You can change this size, you can change the material to different materials to make it heavier or lighter or whatever. And then the spring drop platform. What I forgot to tell you guys is you want to make this large. You don't want to make it, you want to make it at least like an inch or two in size. Otherwise, if you make it too small, your dynamic simulation doesn't work very well. Okay. So what I'm going to do is we go up here to environments and dynamic simulation. Okay, and before you do that, make sure you ground this piece here, because that's what we're going to base everything else off of. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to dynamic simulation, and the very first thing I want to explain is the simulation player. The simulation player, if you accidentally close it, you can open it right back up right here. This you're going to basically leave open the entire time, just because this is what adjusts the amount of time and what happens with your object. So we're going to hit play, and you'll see that this flies into nowhere, and I'll explain sort of why it does that. Because there's 5 steps, and those 5 steps are gravity, 3D contact, a possible spatial constraint, depending on how many constraints you put on this, a spring, I guess there's 4 steps, and then setting up a spring. Okay, so whenever you hit play, no matter what happens, in order to be able to make any changes, you have to click on this construction mode to be able to make changes to it again. So the first thing I told you have to make is gravity. Okay, so gravity, you can see right now I have gravity pointing up. All I have to do is flip it down. And what I did was I chose for my entity, I chose something on a vertical axis. If you made this rounded and there's no vertical axis to set it to, you can change this to vector components, and then you can just set it in the Y direction. Obviously this is the wrong direction, so all I have to do is come over here and say negative. Okay, so now when I hit play, it goes pew, and it falls the right way. Now if you start it and it doesn't fall, what you're going to do is you're going to go to insert joint, you're going to go to spatial, and you're going to create a spatial constraint between this and this. And what that does is it creates a physical relationship with where this is in the world. So I'm going to hit play, and you can see that it falls again. It doesn't matter if it does fall and you do make a spatial constraint, it doesn't matter. It'll still create a relationship between those two parts. So the next thing I want to do is I want this to stop when it hits this face. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to insert joint again, and I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom to 3D contact. Now it doesn't matter where you choose on this, it's just basically saying that I want this object to collide with this object. Okay, and then I'm going to hit play, and boom, it hits there. The other piece continues on because I don't have a 3D contact for that. I don't need a 3D contact for that, from this to that, because we're going to use our spring for that. And if you do your spring right, it'll never collide with this at all. So I'm going to go back to this, and I'm just going to open these up so you can see I've got my gravity here under external loads. My force loads are right here, or some people call these internal loads or internal forces. So I've got my 3D contact. I'm going to go back to insert joint again. This time I'm going to change it to spring. Okay, so I'm going to choose this surface, and this surface, or this, I'm actually choosing edges, not surfaces, but the edge here to the edge here. And what I showed you in the last video is if this shows up, let's double click on the spring. If this shows up not looking the way you want to, all you have to do is click on this drop down here and change your radius, change your facets, change your wire radius, and all that other stuff. You can actually even change the transparency of it too, so you can see through it. It's kind of cool. And you can also choose, you can play around with some of these other things too. You can change it to, like, you know, whatever you want. So this down here is literally just showing the actual visualization of it. It doesn't change the actual forces up here. So you can change these, and no matter what you put in here, it's the same exact. It's all it is a visualization of what it is, except for the jack. That's a little bit different, but whatever. So I'm gonna go up here, and I've got my two things. You see that this stiffness is 0, and this damping is 0. So we're gonna leave it that way for right now. But what I want you to see is this free length. The free length is the distance between here and here. So you want to leave that the same, or you can click on the update the free length in case you moved it around a little bit. But I'm going to hit OK for right now. And I'm going to hit play. And I want you to see, so once it goes through, it stretches that spring and keeps stretching that spring and stretching that spring until that thing falls to nowhere. That's because I don't have any force that's going on that spring. So let's go back to construction mode, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this, and I'm going to make this now, I don't know, let's start easy. Let's still go 10, okay? And then I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to hit play again, and you'll see now it's got some force, but not quite enough force because it still goes through. So we'll stop it. We'll go back to construction mode. I'll change the spring, I'll up this to 20. And I'll just play around with this until I have a comfortable size. So let's hit play, and you'll see now it goes down. That's still not enough. So I'll play around with that a little bit. Let's make it, I'm going to do it 40. And then we'll hit play. So that's more like it. We're getting there. It's still squishing all the way down. So I don't even have to look at it again because it's squished all the way down. So let's go to construction mode again, and let's change this to like 60. Okay? And let's hit play. And man, I must have a lot of mass up here. But it's now getting closer. But actually, you know what? I'm going to continue playing it because I want you to see what happens. Come on, buddy. Back up. So you see how it bounced up in the air? I'm gonna actually leave it here for a second so you can see. It bounces up into the air. I must have a lot of stuff running. Oh, it must be the video that I'm taking. It usually doesn't take this long to calculate, but it's gonna continue bouncing forever because I have no damping force. It's just a spring force. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to construction mode. She doesn't like that. It says, you can't see it above there. It says not responding. There we go. It is, I'll say this, it is important to save along the way because if you don't, it crashes a lot with dynamic simulation, especially on the remote desktop. So let's hit play, and now this time that damping force, I added 1. You're going to see that it's not going to go down as far either, because it's adding another force to this. But it's going to slow this down over time. I'm not going to let it sit here and watch it for 10 minutes, and I don't want you to do that. So play around with it. Get to this point. This is what we're doing for today. Okay? That's it. Well, you can see that it doesn't go all the way up now, and it kind of comes down, and then it's a weird thing because there's no friction between this and this. I will show you that. That's the last thing I'll show you, and then I'll be done. Come on, buddy. Stop. Instruction mode. And I'll show you, if you are interested in playing around with this a little bit more, you can change the friction of the 3D contact between the bottom of this and the top face of this. So, okay, that's all I have.